Speaking of outstanding contemporary playwrights, I want to turn specifically to some of your works. The Baltimore Waltz. The Baltimore Waltz. We're in Baltimore, and this is the play that first brought you, I think, national recognition. Many in the audience will have seen or read that play before, but I suspect many have not or have not in a long time. So we should probably begin by, in your own words, what is that play about? What were you trying to do with the Baltimore Waltz?
I was very lucky. I was on a tenure track. And I had been brought in with an ABD, and I was told that in these early years that my plays would be accepted as scholarship. But my brother became ill, and I was his caretaker. I drove down every week from Providence south of Baltimore for 3 days a week, and then drove back to teach. And a very lovely older colleague said, you know, we brought you here, we want to keep you here, you have to write another play. And my brother had just died, and I thought, I don't know how to write another play. But I have to. Or else I'm out of a job. And I had really grown to love the teaching, love Providence, love these playwrights that I was given the opportunity. By the way, in the last 30 years, I just want to put this plug in. Every playwright that I've ever brought to Brown or now Yale School of Drama has gotten a stipend and full tuition. So I have, for whatever time, been able to replicate my good fortune. And I literally went to a cabin in the woods. I went to the McDowell Colony. And I was going to try and write Hot and Throbbing, which I'd done all the research on. And I got into the cabin, and I saw on the cabins in McDowell, every artist who's ever been in your cabin writes their name in this soft wooden tablet. They're called the tombstones. And so the first thing you do, you get into these cabins, and they're a scholarship. For younger artists, your room and board is paid. And I was going and reading the tablets, and I saw Thornton Wilder's name.
Wow.
And I went, oh, screw your outlines, screw what you're going to do. And I slammed the door shut, and I went, I'm going to write this. And the only way I knew how to write it was to use all of the Russian formalist games and tricks that I'd sort of thought about ever since reading Shklovsky, that the thing is not to write the subject matter, but to write away from the subject matter. Because if I thought I'm writing a play about my brother dying, I couldn't write the play. But if I thought, what if my brother had taken me to Europe, and I don't speak any languages? Oh, I can get language books out of the public library. What if I say we're going to Europe and I had never been to Europe? How do I find that out? I could read children's books, I could read travel guides, and I could create an imaginary journey. And then I thought, all I have to do is steal the plot form. And I knew what plot form I had to steal. I stole the form of the short story Occurrence at Owl Creek by Ambrose Bierce. And if you stop and think about it, do folks here read Kenneth Burke? No. I just have to say, I mean, one of the gifts that Bert States gave me was a reading of Kenneth Burke and Grammar of Motives. And in these essays, Kenneth Burke brilliantly says, you know what, there are 5 major plot forms. And Bert States started to play with this. And here they are. And they're very simple plot forms. I added a 6th, synthetic fragment, which is the word for Heiner Mueller's work. Carl Weber brought that work up. And if you stop and think about these plot forms are very easy. There's strictly linear. There's what we could call Shakespearean or epic form, which is linear with big gaps. Now it's time for the Song of the Rain, or now we're going to say Alas Poor Yorick, or where you suspend the forward movement, right? There is, of course, circle that Mr. Beckett reintroduced, where the beginning and the end is the same, right? There is pattern, which Mr. Mamet gave us in Duck Variations, where the pattern repeats. And then there's generic and synthetic fragment. At any rate, Bert said there's no such thing as pure form. And I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about Occurrence at Owl Creek. Do people here know that short story where a soldier is about to be hung for, abandoning the army during the Civil War. They lead him to they lead him to the railing of a trestle bridge, put the noose around his neck, toss him off. He plunges towards the river. The rope breaks. He manages to elude capture. He manages to run back home to his wife, who's awaiting word of his execution. And just as she hears him running up the driveway and starts running into the house, his neck is broken by a 1-second form. If you think about that form, it is ruthlessly syllogistic with a great big circle in the middle. So what Ambrose Bierce did when he created the plot form for Occurrence at Owl Creek is he created a noose. That is literally, if you diagram Occurrence at Owl Creek, you end up with a noose. And so that was basically it. I went, that's it. That's how I'm gonna steal this, I'm gonna steal that. I mean, you can either call it homage or you can call it stealing. I think it's very important for us to attribute and pay homage so that the writers who have given us this abundance are read by younger writers, so that they're continuing the conversation of that homage.